Welcome back to Onward to Victory on this Monday evening. My name is Colgin Hirschel. Alongside me is Rhiannon Boesl and Taylor Gautney. And we have an absolutely packed show today with multiple athletics coming to the end of their seasons with new ones starting up. So we're just going to hop right into it. We're going to talk about the series from the last weekend of ASU hockey where they faced off against Miami, Ohio. And they took the sweep of that series. Taylor, what did you see in that?
Yeah, in this game, against Miami, Ohio, I remember you talking about it. It was a big series to kind of go into that Denver series that they have coming up at home. Definitely going to be there. But against Miami, Ohio, they won the game. Game 1, 7-1, so they absolutely dominated that one. Ryan Kierwan with 2 goals in that one. And then they won the second game 4-1. That's their third straight sweep away. This hockey team is really, really good. A lot of players to look out for. Rhiannon, what did you see from that series?
I just think it's really great to see how powerful and how much fire this team has, especially this is new conference and they're doing really, really well against these really highly rated teams, and going up against Denver coming up, it's going to be really great. And like you said, this is their third straight sweep away. This is the highest they've had in their league since the beginning. So it's really good to see how they're pushing through this new conference with all their new players and how they mesh so well together.
Yeah, ASU currently sits at the top of the NCHC, tied with Western Michigan at 34. And something that I find very interesting is the last 8 games of the season, 6 of them will be against top 5 NCHC opponents. So the Sun Devils' road to the playoffs is definitely a treacherous one. They'll have to get through Denver this weekend at home. They'll go up against Western Michigan at home the following weekend, and then they'll play Omaha after that for the last series away. So they'll mix up with a little bit of let me quickly check the last one, but they'll play those 3 series, which could determine basically the rest of their season. I mean, they've been battling injuries ever since they started the year. They haven't had a single game that they haven't had an injury. And they'll play Minnesota Duluth after Denver, come back home for Western Michigan, and go to Omaha for their final series.
Yeah, and something really impressive about this team is, it's super well-rounded. They held Miami, Ohio to 11 shots on goal, and the previous low was 15 in 2019. So you're just seeing the development of all these defensemen, Noah Beck including one of them, just playing, like Rhiannon said, against these top teams. And I know that we weren't expecting Arizona State to be this good. It's almost like every sport is kind of surprising us, beating big opponents. And this hockey team, if you're an Arizona State fan, you definitely got to show out to Mullet.
Yeah, I was about to say it's going to be really cool to see how the environment just gets them more pumped up, because the way that they've performed out of their environment in these big schools, it's going to be so great to see when they have their home team, their home fan base supporting them.
So the last time Denver came to Mullet was last season for their first series after Stonehill. They were on a kind of a roll to start the season, and then they played Denver. They won the first game in overtime, which at that point Denver was the number 2 team in the country, very similar to the beginning of this season when they swept Denver. It was this huge thing. Denver was undefeated, national champions, had this home win streak, entire win streak that was, I believe it was 20, 30-something games. And then ASU just rolls into Denver and just sweeps them. And it kind of just stunned everyone. Yeah, and it was mainly on the back of Artem Schlane, who scored 4 goals in that series. He's questionable for this upcoming series. He took a nasty hit against Miami, Ohio, and he was stretchered off the ice. So that just plays into Arizona State's injury troubles. But if they can stay healthy, I don't see any reason why they can't make a push for the Frozen Face-Off, which is the NCHC tournament, or the Frozen Four, which is the NCAA one.
And, like you said, with those injuries, I feel like ASU has kind of adapted really well to that since they've been dealing with it this whole season. Right after Celine had to leave the ice, they scored 2 goals right afterwards. So I just think they kind of have that support for one another. Hey, we got to do this for our guy. And they just adjust really well even in the midst of those circumstances.
Yeah, it's definitely always next man up mentality. You have one of your teammates go down, you get in. And going back to that series against Denver, growing up in the South, you don't hear a lot about college hockey, but you hear about Denver hockey and how dominant they are. And it's just crazy that Arizona State went to Denver and beat the number 1 team. And they have a chance to do it with Denver at number 5 and Arizona State very highly ranked as well.
It's very similar to the football team where they were picked 8th of 9 in the NCHC preseason poll. They had a slow start to the year, which is unlike the football team, but they had a slow start to the year. They started 3-7-1 in their first 11 games. That was mainly due to the amount of injuries they had. I know Shimmick was out for a little bit. Schlane was out to start the year. Cruz Lucius obviously didn't come back until just recently for the first game of the first half.
Didn't he just make his first goal, too?
Yeah, he scored his first goal against Miami, Ohio last weekend, so that's good to see him get on the board in that category. Kind of took him a little bit of a longer time than people were expecting.
It's going to be exciting for him to come to Mullet playing Denver. It's going to be exciting.
He'll tear that team apart. I mean, with Wisconsin, he was the top point getter for 2 straight seasons with Wisconsin, and I would say that
he just has that energy about him too. Like, he just likes to get so pumped up and kind of interact with the fans. You could tell in his time in Wisconsin, and I think it's gonna be super cool how you said, like, with these big teams in the Mullet, it's gonna be so good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great atmosphere. I mean, I know Taylor, you've been to Mullet a couple of times this year to watch the hockey games. I mean, being from Auburn in the South, like, how did it compare to your home of football?
Yeah, it was definitely surprising because the game of hockey is just not a big thing in the South, and coming out here, you see the Coyotes leave, and you're kind of like, oh, Arizona, there's no hockey culture. But then you pop out to Mullet against the Michigan Wolverines, and you have all these NHL guys on Michigan and Arizona State, and all these people just come out and support. And it was definitely a great sight to see, and I'm super, super excited. I already got my ticket for the Friday game against Denver.
Yeah, I'm going to be covering the game on Friday for WCSN, so that will be very exciting for me. I'll hopefully be able to pop out to the Saturday game as well, but this is a crucial series. I mean, this is, in my opinion, the biggest series of the season. It's make or break. You beat number 5 Denver, and you build all this momentum to play 3 straight teams that could easily beat you. You lose to Denver, you maybe have another injury because Sun Devil hockey just loves to get injured, but
definitely important for their momentum.
Yeah, you take these 2 wins, or you split. Like, ASU cannot afford to get swept in this series. Yeah. I mean, if they do, then it would go downhill for them very quickly because the last time that they haven't been swept all year, I mean, since the Colorado College series, which was back in the first week of November, that was the last time that they were swept in a series. So
this team just seems to have really great chemistry, though, so I feel as though, like, if they do take a loss or something, they can rebuild from that. But I do agree, if it's a sweep, that's going to be really hard to kind of have that, confidence going in against the other teams.
It comes down to the fact that they have been switching up groups and lines the entire season because of the injuries. So everybody knows how to play with each other. They know how to win with each other. They know how to win, but they don't know how to lose with one another, because they haven't had to do that yet. They haven't had to,
especially with the different rotations of players.
Exactly, and Pavicic and Homer, that's been up until the midway point of the year was Pavicic's net, and then Homer started to shine in the Desert Hockey Classic, and now it's kind of up in the air. I mean, Pavicic played really well last weekend against Miami, Ohio, but if they need to learn, they need to not lose. That, I mean, obviously that's what you want in sports, and you don't want to lose, but one loss could be really bad for this team.
Yeah.
So as that yap session of ASU hockey is done, we'll talk about an ASU prospect, one of the basketball players, Mohamed Sila, class of 2025.
So this guy is basically a beast. He is actually not an ASU prospect, but he is currently in school in Scottsdale. He's actually from Singala, sorry for the pronunciation, but he played at the NBA Academy in Africa and in the Basketball Africa League. He's incredible. He's 6'10", 240 pounds. He was number 29 recruit in the nation, the number 5 center. He's number 2 in Arizona right now. He was ESPN top 50. And this man, he's just incredible. The way that he plays, he's great on offense and defense. He likes to dunk literally any time that he can, but he just connects so well. It's not like I'm just going to do this. Like, it is strategic and it's powerful, and he just works around the ball so well. And it's incredible, and I'm so excited to see like him go into NBA. Hopefully, maybe the Suns can maybe get him. I think that would be really helpful. But yeah.
Yeah, you watch highlights of this guy. He's just a super mobile and athletic big man. And of course, being 6'10", he's a little undersized compared to most bigs, but his wingspan is almost like Jaden Quaintance. He just towers over you at the rim, and he kind of reminds me of Kamal Maluak. I don't know if y'all follow college basketball that much, but Maluak is the starting center for the number 2 Duke Blue Devils, and
Luke Dew Devils.
They come from the same place in Senegal, and this guy, he's older because these guys that come from the NBA Africa Academy are always older than high school kids. But I mean, he's about to turn 20 at the end of the month,
or so he says.
He's super physical. He's a high level rim protector. He can move well. He can drive. He can do a little bit of everything, and he's committed to Georgia Tech right now. But being the class of 2025, I wouldn't hold my breath to that. He's going to get more offers. He's rising in every single recruiting ranking. 24/7 Sports has him as the number 18 national recruit. ESPN has him in the top 50. This guy's a beast, and he's going to be an absolute unit at the collegiate level.
Yeah, and it's super interesting at Bella Vista. This team, they play very interesting schools. Like, they're going to be playing the IMG Academy on Valentine's Day, which I think is absolutely incredible. And they just play these are the types of schools that have, like, national teams, open teams, things like that. And, you know, he's on the national team, and they're doing really well. They're 23-7 right now. And it's just really cool to see, like, how he can come in and adjust. You know, he's mentioned in a few interviews how he had to adjust, like, leaving his hometown and, like, and having to adjust to the language. And it's just so incredible to see how he can perform so well in a new environment. And, yeah, he's doing great, and it's going to be amazing to see how he continues to improve.
Yeah, you talk about Bella Vista playing IMG. They also just played Montverde Academy, which if you follow high school basketball, it's always IMG and Montverde. They're always the top 2. They always have the most NBA prospects. And they only lost by 3. He had a great performance. I might have to go to that IMG game. I'm not even lying. That's a very interesting game. IMG has a bunch of recruits as well. But, yeah, this guy's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have one of these big men that are entering the draft, it always brings a lot of hype. I mean, he'll be recruited at some point. Like, he's going to go to a good school. I mean, that's no doubt about that. He's 6'10" out of high school. I mean, that's Jaden Quaintance numbers. I mean, he's, 6'9", and he's at 17 still. He's gonna be one of the top players in college basketball at some level, at some capacity. But it'll be exciting to see where he actually ends up.
Mm-hmm. And right now, as he's currently committed to Georgia Tech, but like you said, it's still a bit early. Georgia Tech is actually the number 16 recruiting class. So it's going to be really cool to see how they kind of pull that together with all these new players coming in. And especially with, you know, Mo. Big man, that's such an important position. That can make or break a basketball team, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and the ACC is always that basketball powerhouse. They're kind of struggling this year with Syracuse and Duke being the only 2 ranked teams. You look at the Big 12, SEC, the ACC has to have some more teams compete. And Damon Stoudemire, the coach for Georgia Tech, is definitely building something after taking the job last season. They're struggling a bit this season, but just like Arizona State, they're a super young team with a lot of great future, and they're definitely going to contend in that ACC. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them make a run in March Madness in future years.
So as we end off with that, we'll head to a break for the song Ho Hey by the Lumineers. Welcome back to Onward to Victory for this second half of the show, where we will begin the roast of Bobby Hurley, brought to you by Taylor Gautney.
All right, so when Bobby Hurley came in 10 years ago, it was a good hire. You know, he was at the small school for about 13 seasons, came in, starred Duke guard back in the past, had a short NBA career due to injury. His record with Arizona State is 167 and 140. It's pretty good. 4 21 seasons and 3 NCAA tournaments made. He's actually 4 of 16 versus Arizona in the last 20 games. He can't be doing that. And 2 and 4 in March Madness. You know the game. We can talk about it all we want, but At the end of the game, there was a little chippiness between Caleb Love and B.J. Freeman. B.J. Freeman headbutted Caleb Love, which I don't blame him because, I mean, Arizona was playing a little dirty. We saw it all game. They were saying a few not nice words to the players.
Do not repeat them on air.
No, but, you know, in the game of sport, I have to be really careful when I say this. In the game of sports, when you lose or win, you shake hands with the opposing team. Me and Colgin's intramural basketball team just lost 100-20. And you know what we did after the game? We went over to their bench and we shook their hands. We said good game, and we respected them.
I would like to say I was not playing that game, so
I understand B.J. Freeman, you know, he got ejected, he had to leave. But the fact that Bobby Hurley told the entire team to go back to the locker room and went with them, did not shake hands with the Arizona coach, just absolutely left. And then after the game, said that Arizona played with no class, they didn't deserve the win, and that if he had a Big 12 vote for the after the season team, he would not vote Caleb Love.
Well, he does have a vote, right?
Yeah, he would not vote their coach. He would not vote Caleb Love. And I understand it's a rivalry. You know, rivalries are what make sports so great. But at the end of the day, you respect your opponent. You respect all the work that Arizona has put into that game. And the way that they beat you was fair. There was no cheating. There was no really blatantly bad calls from the refs. What do y'all think about this? I just think Bobby Hurley, after this season, I think it's time to move on to a younger coach that connects more with the young players that you have.
I was watching about the last 15 minutes of that game, and there was a point in time where in that last 15 minutes, it's like, okay, ASU, they're normally down by a couple. Like, they were tied at one point. I think they were even winning up by 1 or 2 at one point as well. But they weren't. It wasn't like they were getting outclassed. They weren't getting outmatched.
Very great matchup, I would say.
Yes, I mean they played as well as they probably should have against this team, but I didn't end up seeing the incident that happened afterwards with B.J. Freeman and Caleb Love. But the fact that incident occurred and it was Arizona State's fault, B.J. Freeman made the incident, like he was the one at fault, and then Bobby Hurley tells his players to get off the court and not shake their hands because he believes that they were, you know, at fault. Like he believed U of A was at fault. That's classless. I mean,
yeah, and it's almost the fact that I understand Caleb Love got ejected. He said some things he shouldn't have said. I mean, he had a great game. He can talk all he wants. He has 27 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists. But that altercation was not Tommy Lloyd's fault. It was not the entire Arizona team's fault. They were backing up their player. Of course, you had the benches kind of go after the altercation. But, I mean, nothing really happened in the altercation that leads to you not shaking hands.
I'm going to give another thought on this, and we'll let Rhiannon give her opinion on it. You can say whatever you want. During scrums, things are said about anything and everything. I mean, I've had some pretty nasty things said to me when I've been an athlete in my past, but it's the actions that really stand out because everybody's watching. They can't listen. They can't listen to what Caleb Love is saying. They can't listen to what B.J. Freeman's saying. They can't listen to what Bobby Hurley is saying unless he's in the press conference afterwards. But B.J. Freeman headbutting Caleb Love, Bobby Hurley calling his players off. I mean, those are two things that Arizona State did, and Arizona, in my opinion, didn't do anything besides play dirty, which if the refereeing, if they really thought that they were playing super dirty, the refs would have done something. I mean, I don't know. That's me coming from from a non-basketball watching standpoint, but
yeah, I would say it's definitely interesting because when you look, let's say, at the rival games in football, you kind of see the same type of energy, very, you could just say aggressive, especially toward the end of the game. Could it have been handled better? Yes. I feel like just maybe staying respectable and, you know, that's always the way to go. And hopefully it goes a lot better when they head down to Tucson in March. But, yeah, I think it's just in the heat of the moment, and unfortunately it just didn't turn out the way that it should have.
Yeah, I saw Kenny post game. He was walking out of the stadium. Normally Kenny Dillingham is lively. He's energetic. He loves ASU, which has been very apparent this entire year. He was walking out in somewhat monotone, very he looked like an average guy, which, I mean, if you didn't know who he was, you definitely would think that. But he's normally getting the guys pumped up. But
he's so hype.
But he just wasn't after that game, which I think showed his displeasure. But he also showed out to another event over the weekend, and that was the softball alumni game that was held by the baseball team over this past weekend on Sunday. And I know, Taylor, that you had the liberty of going to that one and being able to write a little report on it, so you know a little bit more about that. So what did you see at that game?
Yeah, this event, it was actually really, really packed. There was a lot more people there than I thought there would be. They had the softball game and then the scrimmage with the 2025 roster. But you had notable alumni, Seth Torkelson, Graham Rossini, Cole Calhoun, Jake Sheffield, all these guys that are Arizona State baseball legends, have their numbers retired. Torkelson currently plays in MLB. He's a weapon for the Tigers. King of JUCO was there, YouTuber. A lot of the kids liked King of JUCO being there. But this game was great. I mean, it was a great game. Of course, it was more low-key. They were having fun. They were getting into it. They had I'm pretty sure it was Graham Winkworth was the PA announcer, kind of roasting every single player as they went up to bat. But it was tied 15-15 at the bottom of the 7th. The game ended. They went into extras, and it was Seth Torkelson for the Pinstripe team versus Seth Martinez for the Maroon team. And, of course, Spencer Torkelson had a home run 4 out of 5 times, and then Seth Martinez went 3 for 5, and so the Pinstripe team won. But this was just a great way to get the community of Tempe and Phoenix and the entire metro area excited about this Sun Devil baseball season that we've honed in on the past 2 episodes, and how much hype there is around this team and the potential and everything. And it was just a great day overall.
That's so sweet. It's so cool to see the way that the alumni come back together and just, enjoy a nice little softball game. Obviously, they're all coming from different types of sports, but it's just really cool to see how the community can just come together, stay together, and it just goes to show how valuable these little things are. And like you said, it brings not just the community of the alumni, but also just the fans and the families. Just a great way to get together. And tied at 15, that's a pretty intense game if I say so myself.
How did Kenny play?
Kenny was the first person to bat for the Pinstripe team, had 1 at bat, and then I'm pretty sure he left in a Waymo.
Oh, I did see the Waymo video on his
Kenny Dillingham and his Waymos.
He loves a little bit of Instagram Live when he's in a Waymo. I think I've seen about.
He was listening to Rod Wave in one of them. He was jamming out to some Rod Wave.
Kenny is such a good. If you ever are questioning what an ASU athlete and an ASU student would look like, just look up one of Kenny Dillingham's lives. I mean, they are a token of joy right there. I mean, I saw a picture of him taking that bat. He didn't look too bad. So, I mean, obviously he was an athlete. He needs to be still an athlete, but
yeah, and it was also interesting to see. You have the notable alums like superstars Barry Bonds, Dustin Pedroia that have played in MLB. Reggie Jackson, all these guys in the Hall of Fame. Except for Barry Bonds, sadly, but it was just a really cool sight to see everyone learning about the history of Arizona State baseball intertwined with the team that is this year pitching off, or first pitch is February 14th against Ohio State. And yeah, it was just a great event, a lot of great people there, and I'm excited for what this baseball team can do after that event and how many fans are going to show up to Phoenix Municipal Stadium.
So as we close out this episode of Onward to Victory, thank you so much for listening. For Blaze Radio, I'm Colgin Hirschel.
I'm Rhiannon Boesl.
And I'm Taylor Gautney.
This is Don't Erase Me In by The Grateful Dead.